The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled under the light of 3 artificial suns. Ambassador Elena Ramirez stood at the center of the speaker's platform, her dark blue Earth uniform sharp against the swirling colors of the alien council members. She was tired, not just from today's meeting, but from 3 years of meetings that went nowhere. For the 7th time, the Council has rejected Earth's petition for equal trade rights, announced Elder Zekthron, his voice booming through translator devices across the chamber. The Elder's insect-like body towered 4 meters tall, his green, chitin armor gleaming. Humanity has not yet proven itself worthy of full membership privileges. Elena took a deep breath. She had expected this result, but it still made her angry. Behind her sat 20 other human representatives. They all wore the same tired expressions. For 3 years they had followed every rule, filled out every form, and answered every question. Still, the Council found new reasons to keep humans. At the bottom level of galactic society, Elder Zekthron, honorable council members, Elena began, her voice steady despite her frustration. 15 years ago, humanity achieved faster-than-light travel on our own. Within 3 years of first contact, we had adapted our technology to be compatible with galactic standards. We have followed every regulation and requirement for membership. A blue-skinned Procyon representative raised a webbed hand. Your species is young. The Council has existed for 12,000 years. Patience is required. Elena smiled without humor. Patience? We have been patient. Meanwhile, Earth traders must pay triple the taxes of Council species. Our scientists are denied access to research facilities. Our colonies are restricted to systems no one else wants. The chamber filled with murmurs as translator devices struggled to keep up with different alien languages. Most Council members looked bored. They had heard human complaints before. Elena turned to look at her team. They nodded at her, knowing what was coming next. They had discussed this moment for months, and the decision had been approved by Earth's government. It was time. Humanity will not continue to beg for scraps at your table, Elena declared, her voice echoing through the chamber. The murmurs stopped as translator devices conveyed her words. We hereby withdraw from the Galactic Accords and will pursue our own path among the stars. For 3 seconds, there was complete silence. Then the chamber exploded with noise. Some Council members jumped to their feet, those who had feet, while others flashed warning colors or emitted scent signals of alarm. Order! Order in the Council! Shouted Elder Zekthron, slamming his ceremonial staff against the floor. The sound echoed like thunder through the chamber. Elena did not wait for order to return. She gestured to her team, and as one, the entire human delegation stood up. Their movement caught the attention of the Council and the noise began to die down. This is not a negotiation tactic, Elena continued once she could be heard again. Earth has already begun recalling its citizens from Council space. Our trade ships have new routes. Within 6 standard months, we will have completely withdrawn from all Council agreements. This is unprecedented, hissed a snake-like Serpenti representative. No species has ever withdrawn after beginning the membership process. Perhaps that is why the process remains so unfair, replied Elena coolly. We will establish our own relationships with whoever wishes to work with us, based on mutual respect rather than age or tradition. The human delegation began walking toward the grand exit doors. Council security officers, large purple beings, with multiple arms, moved as if to block their path, but Elder Zekthron raised a limb to stop them. Let them go, he said, his mandibles clicking with what might have been amusement. The primitives will return when their resources dwindle. Elena paused at the door and turned back to face the Council one last time. We survived alone on our violent planet for thousands of years. We advanced from simple tools to space travel in a fraction of the time it took most of your species. Do not mistake our patience for weakness or our politeness for dependency. As the doors closed behind the human delegation, Elena felt both relief and worry. They had practiced this moment, but now that it had happened, the future seemed suddenly uncertain. Captain Marcos Chen, head of Earth's security team, fell into step beside her as they walked down the long corridor toward their ship. Well, That bridge is thoroughly burned, he said with a small smile. What's next? Now we see if Operation Stellar Independence works, Elena replied. Earth has been preparing for this moment since we realized the Council would never treat us as equals. The operation was Earth's backup plan, a massive coordination of all human resources to establish a presence in unclaimed territories. For the past year, while Elena's team kept the Council distracted with endless paperwork and petitions, Earth had secretly built new ships and trained thousands of diplomats and explorers. Their shuttle waited in the docking bay of the massive Council station. Through the viewports, Elena could see the blue-green jewel of Centauri Prime, the Council headquarters world. It might be the last time she would see it. As they boarded their ship, Elena's communication device chimed. It was a message from Earth Command. Operation Stellar Independence is now active. All teams have their orders. Good luck, Ambassador. Elena looked at her team as they strapped into their seats. Some looked nervous, others excited. They were about to change humanity's place in the galaxy. The Council thinks we'll come crawling back, she said to them as the ship's engines hummed to life. They believe we need them more than they need us, Captain Chen grinned. They're about to learn something about humans. Yes, Elena agreed as their ship detached from the station and turned toward the jump point that would take them back to Earth. They're about to learn that humans work best when someone tells us we can't do something. As their ship accelerated, away from Council space, none of them noticed the small Telsian observer who watched their departure with great interest. Unlike the Council elders, this observer had studied human history carefully. He activated his own communication device and sent a simple message to his government. It has begun. Watch the humans carefully. They will either destroy themselves or change everything. 6 months passed without a single communication from Earth. The Galactic Council had expected desperate messages within weeks, perhaps a month at most. The silence was disturbing. Commander Jackson Wei stood on the bridge of the Earthship Pathfinder, looking out at the swirling purple clouds of the Taran Nebula. Static electricity crawled across the viewports, evidence of the intense radiation that made this region of space uninhabitable to most species. Radiation levels are high but within our safety parameters, reported Science Officer Maya Patel. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she analyzed the data. The nebula's unusual particle composition is exactly what our scientists predicted. Jackson nodded, his experienced eyes scanning the nebula. At 45 years old, he had spent 20 years in Earth's space program. He remembered when humans thought they were alone in the universe. Now they were charting their own path among the stars, far from Council oversight. Any sign of the Nix? He asked. Communications Officer Thomas Rodriguez adjusted his headset. Yes, sir. They're approaching from the far side of the nebula. 3 ships matching the description we were given. Jackson straightened his uniform. This meeting was important. The Nix were one of 17 non-Council species that Earth had contacted after leaving the Council. Small, with purple skin and 4 arms, the Nix had been overlooked by the Council for centuries because their system had few valuable resources. But Earth scientists had discovered something the Council missed. The viewscreen activated, showing the interior of the lead Nix ship. A small figure with large silver eyes looked back at them. Greetings, humans, the Nix captain said through the translator. I am Captain Zilith. We were surprised to receive your message. Few venture into our territory. Jackson smiled. Thank you for meeting with us, Captain Zilith. We believe this nebula holds opportunities that could benefit both our peoples. The Nix captain tilted his head. The Council scientists said the radiation makes this region worthless. Human bodies evolved on a planet with natural radiation, explained Maya, stepping forward. We developed technologies to protect ourselves. Our scans show the nebula's unusual particle composition allows for quantum entanglement at unprecedented scales. She sent data to the Nix ship. Captain Zilith's eyes widened as he reviewed it. With your permission, Jackson continued, we'd like to establish a joint research facility here. Equal partners, equal benefits. Equal? Zilith seemed confused by the word. The Council always demands controlling interest in any venture. We are not the Council, Jackson said simply. Humans believe the best relationships are built on mutual respect. For the next 3 hours, they discussed details. By the end, Captain Zealith was smiling, a gesture he had learned from watching the humans' expressions. My government will agree to this partnership, he said. You are the first species to treat us as equals since we achieved space travel. As the Nix ships departed, Thomas received a communication from Earth Command. Sir, we've received updates from the other expeditions. Jackson read the report with growing satisfaction. Across 17 star systems, similar scenes were unfolding. Human ships were making contact with species the Council had ignored or exploited. The drawl of the Beta system had agreed to a mining partnership. The Crystalline Vox had opened their libraries to human scholars in exchange for entertainment media. Apparently, human music was fascinating to beings who communicated through harmonic resonance. Send our report to Earth Command, Jackson ordered. The Nebula Research Station has been approved. Phase 1 of Operation Stellar Independence is proceeding as planned. Back on Earth, factory complexes stretched across what had once been desert wasteland. The global economy had transformed to support humanity's new path. Every nation contributed resources and expertise. In the central production facility, lead engineer Sophia Chen watched as robotic arms assembled the newest starship design. It incorporated innovations the Council had never considered, adaptations of Earth's diverse technologies that evolved under unique planetary conditions. The fusion containment system passed all tests, her assistant reported. It's 30% more efficient than Council standard designs. Sophia nodded with pride. The Council never thought to combine magnetic containment with gravitational dampening. They've used the same design for 1,000 years because it works well enough. That was the difference, she thought. Humans were never satisfied with well enough. On Earth, competition drove constant innovation. Different cultures found different solutions to the same problems. When those diverse approaches were combined, the results often surprised even humans themselves. How many ships in production now? She asked. 87 at facilities worldwide, her assistant replied. We'll have a fleet of 200 by end of next month. Sophia smiled. When the Council had denied humans advanced ship designs, Earth engineers had simply created their own. Without Council restrictions, they were free to experiment, to combine technologies in ways the Council considered unorthodox or even dangerous. Any word from our diplomats? She asked. They've established 23 partnerships with non-Council species in just these 6 months. The trade network is growing faster than projected. Sophia wasn't surprised. Humans had always been good at building connections. After centuries of dealing with different cultures and languages on Earth, adapting to alien perspectives wasn't so difficult. The Council had expected humans to fail without their support. Instead, humanity was thriving. Ma'am, her assistant said, checking a new message. The mining operation in the Epsilon sector reports they've refined their asteroid processing technique. It now extracts 40% more rare elements than Council methods. This was significant news. Rare elements were the currency of the galaxy, essential for advanced technology. If humans could extract resources more efficiently than the Council, send this to Ambassador Ramirez immediately, Sophia ordered. And make sure our new allies receive the technical specifications. We promise to share advancements. That was another difference between humans and the Council. The Council hoarded knowledge, using it to maintain control. Humans shared innovations with their partners, strengthening all. As Sophia watched the new ship taking shape, she felt a sense of pride. 6 months ago, the Council had dismissed humanity as primitives who would come crawling back. Now, humans were reshaping the galactic landscape. The Council didn't understand what they were dealing with, she murmured to herself. Humans don't give up. We find another way. And across the stars, that way was becoming clear. A network of independent worlds working together, challenging the Council's 12,000-year monopoly on galactic civilization. Elder Zekathron paced across his private chamber in the Galactic Council headquarters. His 4 long legs clicked against the polished stone floor as he moved. The mantis-like Varaxian was agitated, his normally green chitin taking on a yellowish tint that revealed his stress. "They're doing what?" he demanded, mandibles clicking furiously as more reports appeared on the large display screen. Council analyst Tila stood calmly before him. The blue-skinned Procyon's webbed hands moved gracefully over her datapad as she organized the information. As a water-dwelling species, Procyons were known for their calm approach to problems, a trait that made them excellent analysts. The humans have established 23 partnerships with non-council species in just 18 months, she explained. They're creating their own trade network that operates outside our influence. Tila projected a holographic map showing the spread of human activities. Glowing blue lines connected previously isolated systems, forming a web that circled around council territory. Each of these points represents a human outpost or partnership, she continued. The orange markers show trading hubs they've established. The green ones are joint research facilities. Elder Zikthran studied the map with growing concern. The humans weren't expanding randomly. Their network formed a clear pattern. They were systematically connecting systems that the council had deemed unimportant. Most concerning is the report from the Epsilon sector, Tila added. Humans have discovered a method of mining asteroid fields that extracts 40% more rare elements than our techniques. Zekathran stopped pacing. Rare elements were essential for advanced technology. Council control of these resources had been a key factor in maintaining their power for thousands of years. Have they kept this technology to themselves? He asked. Tila shook her head. No, Elder. They are freely sharing this technology with their new allies. The Drawl Mining Consortium is already implementing the human method. This violates no council regulations, noted another analyst, a bird-like avian with bright red feathers. They're operating entirely within unclaimed territories or in partnership with independent species. Elder Zekathran clicked his mandibles in frustration. That was the problem. The humans weren't breaking any rules, they were simply working around them. Why would they share such valuable technology? He wondered aloud. They could use it to dominate these minor species. Tila scrolled through more reports. It appears to be their standard approach. They establish relationships based on mutual benefit rather than control. They've been particularly successful with species we've historically overlooked. The door to the chamber slid open, and Council Economic Advisor Meek entered. The small, gray-skinned Delvian looked worried, his large eyes blinking rapidly. Elder, I bring troubling news from the banking consortium, Meek said without greeting. Human currency is becoming the preferred medium of exchange in the outer systems. This was perhaps the most alarming development yet. The Council had always maintained economic control through their unified credit system. If traders were switching to human currency, how is this possible? Demanded Zekathran. Their economy is tiny compared to the Council's. Their currency is backed by resources, not Council approval, explained Meek. And they charge lower transaction fees. Many traders find it more convenient, especially for deals that don't involve Council worlds. Elder Zekathran walked to the large viewport that overlooked the capital city. For 12,000 years, the Council had controlled galactic civilization. They had seen species rise and fall. They had weathered wars, plagues, and economic crises. But they had never faced a challenge quite like this, a species that simply ignored their authority and built something new instead. They were supposed to fail, he said quietly. They were supposed to come crawling back to us when they realized how difficult galactic politics could be. Humans are adaptable, Tila observed. They evolved on a planet with extreme environmental variations. Their history is filled with examples of groups that were isolated yet thrived by finding creative solutions to problems. Zekathran turned back to face his advisors. What do they want? Territory, resources, recognition. Based on their actions, they appear to want connections, Tila replied. Their strength comes from building relationships. It's quite different from our hierarchical approach. The final blow came when Mick's datapad chimed with a new alert. The economic advisor read the message and looked up with alarm. The Delvian Banking Consortium reports that the technologically advanced Axiom race has agreed to enter into an exclusive research partnership with humanity, he announced. The room fell silent. The Axioms were legendary for their advanced technology and complete disinterest in council affairs. For thousands of years, they had rejected all diplomatic overtures from the council. How have they accomplished this? Demanded Elder Zekthran, his voice rising. The Axioms have rejected our overtures for millennia. Unknown, admitted Tila. But the human diplomatic team was led by a cultural specialist named Dr. Amara Singh, who spent 3 years studying Axiom communication patterns before making contact. Zikathran's chitin darkened to a deep green, a sign of serious concern among his species. If the humans gain access to Axiom technology and continue to share advancements with their network of allies, he didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone in the room understood the implications. The Council's technological advantage, maintained for thousands of years through careful control of information, could evaporate within a decade. "We must act," declared the Elder. "Send a delegation to Earth. Tell them we're prepared to reconsider their position within the Council." Tila began composing the message, but she looked skeptical. "Do you believe they'll accept, Elder? They appear to be thriving without us." Elder Zekthran's mandibles clicked slowly as he considered the question. For the first time in his 900-year life, he felt uncertain about the future. "They must," he said finally. "The alternative is unthinkable." 3 days later, the Council received Earth's response. The message was delivered by a holographic Ambassador Ramirez, who simply stated, "We're no longer interested in joining your council. We've found better friends." As the hologram faded, Elder Zekathran realized that the galaxy was changing, and for once, the Galactic Council was not in control of that change. The grand marketplace on Centauri Station had always been crowded with traders from hundreds of worlds. Species of all shapes and sizes haggled over exotic goods while council peacekeepers maintained order. For centuries, it had been the center of galactic commerce. Today, it was half empty. Council Trade Minister Jax, a tall, thin being with gray skin and 6 fingers on each hand, walked through the quiet marketplace with growing concern. Where once there had been lines of ships waiting to dock, now many berths stood empty. The few traders who remained looked worried as they discussed rising costs and falling profits. "Minister," called a Viridian merchant, his green scales flashing in the artificial light. "When will the council address the trade crisis? My shipping costs have doubled since the humans established their new routes." "The council is aware of the situation," Jax answered smoothly. "These disruptions are temporary. The human network lacks the stability and security of council trade routes." But as he continued his inspection, Jax knew his words were empty. The galactic economy was shifting, and not in the Council's favor. Resources that had flowed to Council worlds for millennia were being redirected through human-established trade routes. Minor species that had been exploited for centuries found themselves with alternatives. They could now sell their goods to human traders who offered better prices and didn't demand the heavy taxes the Council required. Back in the Council chamber, an emergency session had been called. All 500 representatives were present, a rare occurrence that highlighted the seriousness of the situation. "The economic disruption is spreading," reported Delvian economic advisor Mick. 17 trade hubs in the outer systems now conduct more than half their business in human currency, or through barter arrangements facilitated by human mediators. A wave of concerned murmurs swept through the chamber. "This cannot be allowed to continue," declared the representative from Kronos, a militaristic species known for their direct approach. "We should send warships to blockade human outposts." Elder Zekathran raised a limb for silence. "And what would that accomplish? The humans have broken no laws. A military response would only push neutral species into their camp." "Then how do we respond?" demanded the Kronos representative. Before Zekathran could answer, the chamber doors opened. A junior council member rushed in, breaking protocol in a way that would normally bring severe punishment. "Apologies for the interruption," the young member said breathlessly. But I bring urgent news. The Tellurians, Meridians, and Vega Collective have just announced their withdrawal from the Council. Absolute silence fell over the chamber. 3 Council species leaving at once was unprecedented. Impossible, whispered someone. The Vega Collective has been part of the Council since its founding, the young messenger continued. They have joined what they're calling the Stellar Cooperative, led by humanity. The quiet broke as hundreds of voices rose in shock and anger. Some representatives demanded immediate action. Others called for calm. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Elder Zacathron repeatedly slammed his staff against the floor until order was restored. We need more information, he declared. How have the humans convinced established council members to abandon thousands of years of stability? Council junior member Lissa stepped forward. She represented the youngest council species, admitted only 500 years ago. Her people resembled tall, slender humans but with silver skin that reflected light like a mirror. With permission, Elder, I may have information, she said formally. Kithron nodded for her to continue. I took the initiative to access restricted archives, Lissa admitted, causing another burst of murmurs. Accessing restricted information without authorization was a serious offense. I sought to understand human diplomatic methods. Rather than calling for her punishment, Zacathron gestured for silence. Continue. Humans approach diplomacy differently, Lissa explained, her voice gaining confidence. They don't seek to dominate or assimilate. They forge genuine alliances, based on mutual benefit and respect for diversity. She activated a holographic display showing communication patterns between human diplomats and their partners. The Tellurians left because humans offered them equal participation in research that the Council had restricted. The Meridians joined because humans helped them resolve a centuries-old resource dispute without demanding control of either side's territory. The Vega Collective. She paused, clearly uncomfortable. Speak freely, ordered Zacathron. The Vega Collective stated that after 12,000 years of Council membership, they had grown weary of a system that values age and tradition over innovation and adaptation. The implications were clear and deeply disturbing. The Council's power was fragmenting not because of military threat or economic pressure, but because an alternative system of galactic organization had emerged, one that many species found more attractive. There's more, said Lissa quietly. Our intelligence indicates that 17 other Council species are in discussions with the human-led cooperative. The chamber erupted again, and this time Elder Zacathron allowed the expressions of alarm and anger to continue for several minutes. When he finally called for order, his own chitin had darkened to a deep forest green, revealing his grave concern. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained order, he said, his voice carrying the weight of history. We have survived wars, plagues, and rebellions. We will survive this human disruption as well. But many in the chamber no longer looked convinced. Later that day in her private quarters, Lissa received an unexpected visitor. The Telsian observer who had watched humanity's departure from the Council 18 months earlier slipped in through a hidden entrance. You did well today, the observer said. The seeds of doubt have been planted. But will it be enough? Lissa asked. The elder is still committed to the old ways. The Telsian smiled. Change comes slowly to those who have known only one path for millennia, but it comes nonetheless. What makes humans so different? Lissa wondered. So dangerous to the Council's power? Perhaps it is not that they are dangerous, the Telsian replied thoughtfully. Perhaps it is that they offer something the galaxy has been missing, a system where power is shared rather than hoarded, where differences are valued rather than suppressed. Lissa nodded slowly. The Council has existed for so long that many cannot imagine an alternative. But now, because of the humans, they don't have to imagine. They can see it growing among the stars. The Telsian's expression became serious. The coming days will determine whether the galaxy embraces this new path or clings to the old. Be ready, Lissa. History is being written and you have chosen your role in it. The human diplomatic complex on Earth stood in stark contrast to the ancient, imposing structures of the Galactic Council. While council buildings were designed to intimidate with their massive size and age-darkened materials, the Earth facility featured open spaces, natural light, and gardens where representatives from different species could meet in comfortable settings. Elder Zekthran stood in one such garden, feeling distinctly out of place. His towering insectoid form cast a long shadow across flowering plants from a dozen worlds. He had never before traveled to a non-member world. In 12,000 years, no council elder had ever needed to. "The flowers from Proxima Centauri are particularly beautiful this season," said a voice behind him. The elder turned to find Ambassador Elena Ramirez approaching. She looked different from when he had last seen her in the council chamber 2 years ago. More confident, perhaps, or simply more at ease. "Ambassador." Zekthran greeted her with the formal mandible click of his species. "I appreciate your willingness to meet." "Earth has never refused dialogue," Elena replied, "even with those who previously dismissed us." The subtle reminder of his own dismissive attitude wasn't lost on the elder. He had called humans primitives who would come crawling back. Now he stood on their world seeking their attention. "Please follow me," Elena continued, leading him toward a circular building with walls of transparent material. "Secretary Chen is waiting." Zekthran followed, noting the diversity of species in the complex. He recognized representatives from at least 30 different worlds, many of whom had never been granted even observer status in the council. They moved freely, conversing in groups that mixed species the council had always kept separate. Inside the circular building, Jackson Wei, now Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Relations, sat at a round table that stood in stark symbolic contrast to the hierarchical seating arrangement of the council chamber. "Elder Zekthran." Jackson greeted him with a respectful nod. "Your visit is unprecedented. The council has existed for millennia, and yet this is the first time its leader has come to Earth. Unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures," Zekthran replied, settling his large form onto a specially designed seat. "Your species has caused considerable disruption." "Change is not necessarily disruption," countered Jackson. "The council has existed for millennia. We recognize its historical importance in maintaining order." "Order that your actions now threaten," stated Zekthran. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Elena took a seat beside Jackson. "Is it order you seek to preserve, Elder, or control?" The directness of the question would have been considered offensive in council diplomatic protocol. But Zekthran had come to learn, not to impose council traditions. "From the council's perspective, they are the same," he admitted. "Order through hierarchy has been our way for 12,000 years. And that works well for the council species," said Jackson. "But your council species comprise less than 8% of sentient life in this galaxy. You've systematically exploited or ignored the rest." Zekthran's assistant, a younger Varaxian named Telkor, stepped forward with a datapad. "We have been authorized to discuss terms by which Earth might rejoin the council. Special considerations could be made for your species' unique situation." Rather than showing excitement at this unprecedented offer, Elena and Jackson exchanged a glance that Zekthran couldn't interpret. "Perhaps we should clarify our respective positions," Elena suggested. "What does the council hope to achieve from this meeting?" Zekthran signaled Telkor to display the datapad. "We are prepared to offer Earth exceptional status within the council. Priority trade access, reduced taxation, research sharing privileges, benefits, normally reserved for founding species." Elena took the datapad and studied it briefly before passing it to Jackson. Neither seemed impressed. "And in return?" Jackson asked. "Earth would bring its partners under council oversight," Zekthran explained. "The trading networks you've established would be integrated into council systems. Research would be conducted according to council protocols." "I see," Elena said quietly. "You're not offering partnership. You're attempting to absorb what we've built." Telkor seemed confused by their lack of enthusiasm. "These terms are exceptionally generous. No species has ever been offered such concessions. Because you've never faced a genuine alternative to your system, Jackson pointed out. Until now. Zicthron studied the humans carefully. He had expected them to negotiate terms, to push for even more privileges. Instead, they seemed completely uninterested in what the Council offered. What exactly does Earth want? He asked finally. Elena leaned forward. We don't want special treatment for Earth, Elder. We want representation for all sentient species, technology-sharing programs, and decentralized governance. You cannot possibly speak for all these minor species, Zicthron objected. We don't, Jackson replied. We simply created a space where they could speak for themselves, something the Council never did. Elena's expression softened slightly. Humans are contradictory, Elder Zicthron. We're fiercely independent yet deeply social. We compete and cooperate simultaneously. We don't fit neatly into your hierarchical system because we've learned through our own bloody history that diversity of thought and genuine partnership create stronger societies than centralized control. For the first time, Zicthron began to understand. Humans weren't simply building a rival power block. They were creating an entirely different model of galactic society, one based on principles alien to the Council's understanding of how civilization should function. Your species reached space only recently, he said slowly. Yet you believe you can improve upon systems that have endured for millennia? We don't claim superiority, Jackson clarified. Just difference. Earth was isolated during our development. We had to solve our own problems without guidance. It gave us a perspective that Council species raised within your system couldn't have. Elena stood and walked to a large window overlooking a courtyard where representatives of dozens of species mingled freely. The question isn't whether humans will rejoin your Council, Elder, she said. The question is whether the Council is willing to transform into something new, something that serves all galactic species, not just the powerful few. Zicthron joined her at the window, his compound eyes taking in the scene. For the first time in his 900-year life, he faced a future he couldn't predict, a galaxy in which the Council might not be the center of all things. And if we refuse? He asked quietly. Elena turned to face him. Then the stellar cooperative will continue to grow, not through conquest or coercion, but because we offer something many species have longed for, a voice and a choice. For the first time, Elder Zicthron began to understand what made humanity uniquely dangerous and valuable to the future of the galaxy. 3 months after Elder Zicthron's historic visit to Earth, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council looked remarkably different. Where once 500 members sat in order of their species status, now 2,000 representatives gathered in a circular arrangement symbolizing equality. The ancient hierarchical seating tiers had been removed, replaced by a level floor where all delegates could meet each other's eyes. Elena Ramirez stood beside Elder Zicthron at the center of the circle. The contrast between them was striking. The towering insectoid form of the Elder next to the much smaller human figure. Yet they stood as equals, both at the center of the most significant change in galactic governance in 12,000 years. Today marks the beginning of the Galactic Cooperative, Elena announced, her voice carried to all corners of the chamber by translation devices. A new interstellar community where all voices are heard. The thousands of representatives responded, with their species signs of approval. Some clapped as humans did. Others flashed colors, released scent signals, or hummed in harmonic resonance. Elder Zicthron raised his limbs for quiet. Despite the radical changes to the Council, the ancient Varaxian still commanded respect. Change has never come easily to the Council, he admitted, his translator conveying the subtle harmonics of humility in his native speech. For 12,000 years, we believed our way was the only path to stability. We were wrong. Many of the original Council representatives shifted uncomfortably at these words. 3 of the oldest Council species had refused to join the new organization, retreating to their home systems in isolation. Their empty places in the chamber were conspicuous, but their absence was overshadowed by the presence of 17 new species who had eagerly joined, bringing fresh perspectives and technologies to the gathering. Species that had been deemed too primitive or unimportant by the old council, now sat as full participants. Commander Jackson Wei, now serving as Earth's Minister of Cooperative Security, watched from his position among the Earth delegation. The path to this moment had not been smooth. For weeks after Elder Zacathron's visit to Earth, debates had raged among both Council species and Earth's allies. Some human leaders had argued against merging their stellar cooperative with the reformed Council. Why join with those who rejected us? They had asked. Our network is growing stronger each day. But Elena and Jackson had convinced Earth's government that creating a truly unified galactic community was worth the risk. We didn't leave the Council to build a rival power, Elena had explained. We left to demonstrate a better way. Now, looking around the transformed chamber, Jackson could see the wisdom of that decision. Representatives of species that had been enemies for centuries sat together, cautiously exploring new possibilities for cooperation. Ancient Council species that had never bothered to learn the names of lesser worlds were engaged in earnest conversation with their newly acknowledged equals. At the center of the chamber, Elena continued the opening ceremony. The Galactic Cooperative will be governed by 3 core principles, she explained. Equal representation for all member species, open sharing of beneficial technologies, and respect for cultural autonomy. Elder Zacathron picked up where she left off. We have created a new framework that incorporates humanity's unusual approach to problem-solving, encouraging competition within a framework of cooperation, preserving cultural differences while finding common ground. A holographic display activated above them, showing the structure of the new organization. Unlike the old council's rigid hierarchy, the cooperative featured overlapping circles of responsibility and authority. No single species or small group could dominate decision-making. Humans taught us something we had forgotten, continued Elder Zacathron, his voice carrying the wisdom of his 900-year lifespan. True strength comes not from control, but from diversity working in harmony. The gallery erupted in another round of approval. Even some of the skeptical former council members joined in, won over by the elder's endorsement. After the ceremony, Elena found a quiet moment to stand at one of the chamber's vast viewports. The stars seemed particularly bright today, visible even against the daytime sky of Centauri Prime. Jackson joined her, followed by Lissa, the former junior council member who had played a crucial role in bringing about the change. Congratulations, Madam Secretary, Lissa said to Elena. You've accomplished what many thought impossible, Elena smiled. Not me. All of us together. She looked out at the stars. Though we still have much work to do, 3 founding council species have refused to join us. Dozens of independent worlds remain skeptical. They'll come around when they see the benefits of cooperation, Jackson assured her. Just as the council did. Lissa nodded in agreement. The old council survived for 12,000 years because it provided stability, even if that stability came at a cost. The cooperative must prove it can do the same. With the added benefit of freedom, Elena added. As they spoke, Elder Zacathron approached their group. Despite the formal equality of the new arrangement, many species still deferred to the ancient Varaxian out of habit. Ambassador, forgive me, Secretary Ramirez, he greeted Elena. I have been studying human history since our meeting on Earth. It is remarkable how your species has survived despite your tendency to disagree with each other. Elena laughed. That's our secret, Elder. We don't see disagreement as a threat, but as an opportunity to find better solutions. A paradox, noted Zacathron. You argue constantly yet work together. Humans contain many paradoxes, Jackson explained. We're individualistic yet communal, competitive yet cooperative, traditional yet innovative. Perhaps that is why you were able to see possibilities where we saw only threats, Zacathron admitted. In all our millennium of expansion, we never encountered a species quite like yours. As the gathering continued around them, Elena reflected on humanity's journey. In just 20 years since first contact, humans had gone from galactic newcomers to catalysts for the greatest political transformation in 12,000 years. Not because they were the strongest or most advanced, but because they brought something the galaxy had been missing. The uniquely human paradox of fierce independence coupled with an unshakable belief that everyone deserves a seat at the table. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter as the new era began.